to make a quick video about cabinet scrapers or card scrapers. And what I found out on the internet is there's a lot of information out there and a lot of misinformation. People say don't make it out of this or don't make it out of that, or it's too thick or it's too thin and it's not hard enough or it's not the right steel and you should buy your own and never make one. And it can be really overwhelming for someone trying to get into woodworking or someone who doesn't know a lot about them. And I've learned that from experience. So I started making my own, and I'm making them out of handsaw plates, old handsaws that are beyond resurrection, but the steel is still good in them. So I'm going to make one out of that today, and we're going to sharpen it and turn a burr and try it out, and I'll show you how well they work and how simple they are to make. So here's the saw I went with. It's an old Atkins crosscut saw. It's wore out. You can see it's been sharpened so many times. The jointing is bad. The handle's broken. It has the wrong saw nuts. Has some bending down here at the toe. And it probably could be brought back to life, but I have a lot of projects and I'm just not interested in it. And I bought this saw mainly for the medallion when I bought it because I needed a medallion. And I know these Atkins have good steel. And the important thing on the steel is there's no pitting. Surface rust is fine, it can clean off, and even if it has, maybe the toe is really bent or broken or some bad kinks here or there, if it's got some good sections of steel that are good and flat, go for it. So we're going to break this down, get the handle off, and we'll start the process. So I'm going to make my scrapers 4x2, so I've set my square to 4 inches so it's just easier to lay out that way. This is a straight line, I've checked that, and so we'll just come down 4 inches, as many as we can, and square those on. So we've got I got 3 full ones out of that, 4x2s, which I think is a pretty good size for a regular scraper. Now you could get you could get another one here or maybe a small one. So to cut them out, I just use the grinder, the 4-inch angle grinder with the cutting wheel, and we'll cut them out and then we'll true them all up after that. Got 3 pieces now, and here's the waste from the saw. Like I said, you could make some more if you wanted to. So right now they're a little rough, the edges and stuff. You can see that, but we're just going to clean them up. I'm going to true these, make sure they're square and straight, good straight edges, and then we'll polish them, clean them, and we'll be ready to put a burr on them. I'm just going to work on one right now, and the process obviously would be the same for all 3. Now, something that is really handy for this type of work is just a little block. You want a good flat face here, and you cut a saw kerf in it, and this saw kerf needs to be 90 degrees to this flat face. The rest isn't really critical. But it holds these in place. You can slip them in there, and as high or low as you want, and you can clamp this whole thing in the vise, and it holds it a lot stronger and steady so you can work on it, and it makes it handy for just a lot of the processes that we're going to use. So we'll slip this in. We'll take a file, and we're just going to work on getting these edges trued and square to the surface here and straight. parallel, best way is set your square flush with one end, and then just slide it down. We're a little bit high here. Okay, so we've got the edges square and straight, and now we're going to polish the flat surface, which this piece of steel doesn't need a lot because it was pretty good to begin with. So now we just need to get these surfaces flat and smooth, not a high polish, but smooth. So for that you could use a few different things. You could use stones or sandpaper or even a flat belt sander, although the margin of error with electrical machinery like that is much smaller because it's very easy to get this tilted or something, and if you round these edges very much, it will mess up the scraper. So I prefer to use my homemade stones, is what I call them, and I'll show you in a second. They're essentially a piece of flat tile with wet dry paper on them. I may do a video later on how I made them or how to make them, but the short and sweet is they work perfect in my opinion. They are good and flat, they're easy to do, they're easy to make. The paper does wear out and you have to replace it, but they do last a little while, and they're really cheap, so someone on a budget or starting out, they're a great option, and I love them. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use 320 grit, will be perfect for this. So, and I just use glass cleaner to float the materials, and I'm sure you've seen 100 things on the internet that recommends different stuff. It's really whatever you feel like. One other thing that works good for these is this drawer liner material. A little bit of that underneath keeps the stones from moving. So we'll just start in on this. Even pressure, you don't even need a lot of pressure. If you put too much, you'll start getting pressure points and shine spots. As you can see, it's starting to work there. Really, you don't need this shiny. The main thing is flatness and that you're hitting all the edges. So, I don't know if you can see, but we're hitting this edge, we're hitting this edge, we're hitting this edge. We got a little bit that we're not hitting here, so we'll keep going. Okay, I think we're there now. Like I said, as long as you're hitting the edges and the majority of the surface is good and flat, those slight hollows are not going to hurt a thing. So I don't know if you can see, but we're hitting this edge, we're hitting the edges all the way around. So we'll do the other side, same thing. Now this one I am calling good. We're there. There's a few hollows, but all in all, we got a pretty flat piece, and I think it's going to do just fine. Okay, now we've got it flattened. One thing that I did forget to film, I did it off camera, but all it is rounding the corners, just slight radius on them, and it's just for comfort, because when you're pushing like this, if this is a sharp corner, it really digs into your finger. So it's simple. The last thing before the burr now is to get these polished at 90 degrees to the face. And that's where the block and our 90-degree curve comes in. And the stones, one more time. So, just lay the block on there. I'll do it this way so you can see. Drop this in where it's touching, Just a little bit of pressure here, not much. And back and forth a few times is all it takes. That's a few times is all it takes because we've already flattened and straightened them with the file, so just a few times to true it up. Other side. Make sure it's getting contact, and it is. Okay, so we're ready to put a burr on them and try it out. Okay, so for the burr we'll use our block one more time. Now I didn't true these ends. I'm not going to put a burr on them. You could if you wanted to, I suppose, if you needed a narrow scraper, but I didn't this time. So we'll drop this in. I like to leave about a ½ an inch. I think it's up to you. I mean, you'll hear people say, you know, absolutely don't do any more than 1/8 sticking out, or I don't think it really matters. As long as it's good and solid is the main thing. Now for a steel, for a burnisher, I'm sorry, I use an actual steel. This is a F. Dick brand from Germany. I don't really know what difference this has over a actual burnisher that you could buy. I think it works great, and I think the main thing is something that is harder than the steel here. As long as it's harder than the steel and smooth, it should work fine. I like to hit mine with about 150 grit a few times just to make sure there's no blemishes on the surface, and it also gives it just a little bit of magnetism, which helps turn the burr. So the first thing is we want pressure straight down on the edge. We're not tilting it at all right now. Straight down pressure, several strokes. Okay, several strokes. Now we'll go just a few degrees down on each side, and that's going to push that burr, kind of curl it down over the edge to make a knife edge. Now on the angle, you only need about 5 or 6 passes. Should feel a pretty good burr there. Feels pretty good. Let's try it out and see. We may have to do a little tweaking. So, let's go for the gold. This is a piece of Osage orange, which I'm not sure if you're familiar or not, is one of the hardest woods in America. It's incredibly dense and hard to work with in all aspects. So I say if it cuts this, it'll cut about anything. There you go. Well, there you have it. That is the handsaw plate card scraper on one of the densest woods that I know of. Native woods anyway. And it's pulling off good shavings. Working great. And the whole process took me about 45 minutes to make. Very cheap. We got 3 of them conservatively out of one saw. And I don't see a single problem with these. I've used them and I've loved using them. So make some. Thanks for watching.